Hey everybody, 3on119 here. In this video, I'm going to go over tips and tricks to win more gunfights, specifically in Splitgate 2. So before I get started, I'm not going to give you tips such as play the game and practice because that should be obvious. So you're not going to get any of those nothing burger tips from me, and I'm going to try to make this video as short as possible. Let's get started. All right, so tip number one is to warm up. And you can do this two different ways. One, you can go into either arena quick play or team deathmatch. That's what I like to do just to kind of warm up a little bit. Team deathmatch is a really good way to kind of warm up your aim and your portaling skills. But if you don't really want to wait to get any kind of game going, what you can do is go ahead and go in custom, which is what I do a lot of the times. So you're going to go and you're going to create lobby. I like to do Eden because it's a fairly small map, in my opinion. It's kind of a beginner friendly, easy one. And there's two different options that you can do. You can do free for all deathmatch, which means everybody's against everybody else. What you're going to want to do is make this private. Let's keep it at 8 players. Make sure you go to advanced settings so that you have bots to play against. And I like to just make sure that bots are enabled and spawn custom amount of bots is on, and it's 7. You don't have to mess with any of the map rules or anything like that because you can play this over and over again. Now, once you create this lobby, it's very, very quick. I'm just going to play. Now, what this allows you to do is kind of get used to just aiming in general, especially like first thing in the morning, like me. The first thing that I generally do is I get up in the morning and I get stuff going. This gets your reaction time kind of built up, and it also just kind of gets your aim going at the same time. So really focus on taking short and long engagements and take as much as you can. That's the point of the free-for-all deathmatch. All right, so tip number 2, and this should have probably been tip number 1, and that is to stop taking engagements, you versus 2 others, okay? It's a bad idea almost always, unless they both have their back turned towards you, and they're going to keep their back turned towards you the whole entire time. It's always a bad idea to take on 2 or more at once. It's mostly not going to happen. Otherwise, if you were that good, you wouldn't be trying to sit here and watch this video and trying to look for tips and tricks to win more gunfights. You're probably losing a lot of your gunfights because you're taking on too many enemies at the same time. So either run away. If you're arrows, you can use your ability to get away. Hopefully you can use portals to get away. I'm just gonna get the heck out of here real quick, and maybe you can worry about flanking them later. That's more of a portals thing. I'm not gonna go over in this video any kind of advanced portaling kind of flanking, but let's say somebody is coming from right here, right? I'm just gonna even get a different angle on them. You see how I got a different angle, and that really would throw anybody off, even though it's right there. You're immediately getting to a different place a lot quicker. That's about as quick as someone can turn around, except they have to figure out where exactly you're going first. So you kind of are at an advantage there, even if you're just like, I'm just gonna quickly go over here. Now you're on the other side of the wall that they were just on. So it's really important to just get the heck out of there whenever you think you're going to lose a gunfight. The further away, the better to a certain extent, except you might get yourself into another engagement. The next tip is to close enemy portals, like I just did there. The reason why this is not a general tip, and this is a tip for winning more gunfights, is because if you're just leaving enemy portals open all the time, you're putting yourself open to all kinds of flank angles that you don't know how to deal with. You always have other people around you. The last thing that you need on top of that is for enemy portals to be open in random places that you're not really accounting for in that moment. What I have noticed is just right then, I kind of went to close it and it didn't close right away. I think it's because an enemy is already maybe going through that. But again, even if it's just a single one like this and it's not a completely open portal, you need to make sure that you close all of their portals. Otherwise, you're going to run into some issues, okay? All right, so the next tip that I have for you is, and I think this is a pretty common one, but it may not be if you're new at the game. And that is, instead of reloading to shoot an enemy, you're going to just quickly go to a different gun, right? So I'm going to do this to get to a different gun instead of trying to reload, because most of the time switching really, it doesn't, switching guns is quicker than reloading most of the time. So I'm just gonna, I still killed that person even though I switched guns in the middle of our gunfight. It's really a lot more useful to do that as opposed to reloading in the middle of a gunfight. The next tip that I have for you is use the appropriate gun. So there are plenty of people out there that are running shotguns every single time. I'm going to show you what happens when you run a shotgun in long-term situations. You see how I'm not really shooting this person? I won that gunfight, but I really shouldn't have won that gunfight. So I have enemies that are way over there. Do you see how I'm shooting and nothing was connecting? You cannot use things like shotguns for long range. And additionally, even though it's possible, I personally don't really like to use long range guns for short-term engagement. It's really according to what map you're going to be on, and I think this takes some time and experience. Try to use DMRs and kind of single shot and burst rifles, and maybe even battle rifles before using SMGs. At the time of recording this, very recently, all of these guns were buffed, while all the SMGs and shotguns were kind of nerfed. And that's because Splitgate has a culture of using rewarding precision over just, praying and spraying. And I that's just kind of the culture, at least in Splitgate. And not necessarily sniper, but just more precision tends to be rewarded in this game. So I'd recommend get used to using DMRs like carbines and using burst rifles as well. All right, so for the next set of tips, we're going to be going into some settings and doing some things, okay? So first things first, in this particular game, you need to have a higher sensitivity than you would in another game, or at least one like Rainbow Six Siege. Although you're not flicking, and in Splitgate 2, tracking aim is extremely important, you might be in a situation where you're running and then somebody is shooting behind you, and you have very short amount of time, although the time to kill in this game is very decent. By the time you get that and then look and see where the shots are coming from and turn around and start shooting is actually a considerable amount of time. If you have lower sensitivity, that amount of time is unnecessarily even longer. If you look at my sensitivity, it's currently horizontal sensitivity is 8. 4 weeks ago, my horizontal sensitivity was 3.5 to 4. I've more than doubled that sensitivity in that amount of time since I've started playing the game. The vertical I put kind of low. I don't really know what to do with that yet personally. I'm not finding it too much slower than my horizontal sensitivity. Very few times do I need to shoot somebody way up in the air, but if that happens and they're above me, they're going to get a headshot in on me anyways because they're going to be looking down at my head. So that's another thing that you sort of have to realize. The next tip that I have for you is crosshair. So this is mostly personal preference, but what I will tell you is that the default crosshairs should almost not ever be used unless you find that you just love it to death. The smaller the better, because again, you're not going to get a shot off on that person unless a very small portion of your screen is touching your enemy anyways. So the smaller the crosshairs, you just go to settings, crosshair, and you can select from all of these. And if you wanted to try them out, all you have to do is, select it. You can even apply to all. So that's another big thing, is to not only mess with the crosshair itself for your gun. I would not recommend a small one for shotguns because that's just not the spread. But for everything else, I'd recommend that as small as you can handle. But again, you're going to take some time getting used to it anyway. So that's one thing. You can change the crosshair color of what your crosshair is all the time. You can also change the crosshair color when it's on your enemy. And this is going to be important for later. This, again, is a personal preference, but you need it to stand out. So I picked red for a specific reason. I'm going to tell you why this is a problem on all default settings in a moment. Show sprint crosshair, I turn that off so I'm always seeing the same crosshair. When that crosshair is constantly changing, I don't really like that. So I would recommend taking sprint crosshair off personally. So the next tip I'm going to go into is the enemy color. So if you go into accessibility in your settings and choose enemy color, you'll see a lot of folks are chosen as yellow online. And the rest is basically red. I don't really see too much else. Here's the reason why. Nothing else is yellow. Nothing else is yellow on any map, like ever. So choosing yellow, it's very bright. Additionally, when your enemy is red like it is here, by default, your crosshair color is red. So if you have this and then a red enemy, it's very hard to see where your crosshair is on that enemy at that time. So the one thing I would recommend is, especially if you're going to keep the enemy crosshair red, you need to change your enemy color yellow. If you don't want to change the enemy color, you need to go into crosshair and you need to change the enemy color so that you can actually see your crosshair. I recently changed my crosshair color to black, and I think that was a bit of a mistake, and I need to change that back to white anyway. So the next tip I have for you, and I feel like this is pretty obvious in almost any game, this is always the advice, but that's to turn your field of view all the way up so that you can see as many things as possible. I just think it's a good idea to see more things. This is something that I've only had, at the time of recording this, I've only had this turned up for maybe 3 days now, and it's taken me definitely some getting used to. But the more that you see, the more you can react to, and the more gunfights that you are going to win. So if you like this video, please like, subscribe, hit the notification icon for more Splitgate 2 content. I will be posting a lot more Splitgate 2 content now that we're back in beta. I'm going to be doing all the play tests and going to be sharing with the community what I think about it and what I think they should change. I hope that this improves your game just a little bit. Go out there and practice, 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 and realize it's just a game. And then when you get really good at it, you can start taking it seriously. But until then, enjoy and have a good one.